just glad we got the outline done at 6:44. Well, okay, me. I got the outline done. We're, 5 minutes late? So I got the outline done 6 minutes ago, everybody. We're ready to roll. Welcome back, Mighty Vandals, to Tubs at the Club, brought to you by Snake River Stampede Whiskey. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later in the show. We are the Idaho Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network, and it's the Power Trio back once again, guys. I'm your host, Dallas Hammer, joined, as mostly always, by brave, bold Brian Marceau.
Good to be here, Dallas.
Yeah, wow, just really firing on all cylinders today, guys. Last but not least, the man in Moscow himself, producer redacted, who just woke up in the last 20 minutes, Mr. Marten Heemstra. Marten, how you doing?
I'm tired. I'm excited for this game. It's another fun week of Vandal preview show. I know there's another big game across the state line that I'm sure we're all wondering who the quarterback's going to be for that one, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Vandal football.
Are we sure they're going to play a quarterback? It could be a quarterback or a kicker or a punter or maybe a cheerleader. Who knows? We're not talking about that poorly coached team, though, guys. We're talking about the Idaho Vandals and the San Jose State Spartans. We're going to jump right into it. This is Around the Bar, brought to us by Hughes River Expeditions. If you are looking for a great all-inclusive week-long vacation, do not look past your backyard. Hughes River Expeditions is Vandal-owned and operated and has been since 1976. And they're ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the middle fork of the Salmon, the main Salmon River of no return, the Salmon River Canyons, or even the Selway. And you can always check out special trips like one to see the Perseid meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, Brian. Run amazing whitewater, hike scenic trails, spot wildlife, soak in beautiful natural hot springs. And guys, like I say every damn week, fish the most remote stretches of river in the entire United States. All you got to do is just bring your clothes, give our HRE a call, and they're going to handle everything else. Grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull all throughout the Gem State. Call them now, 406-540-4450, or check them out at hughesriver.com. Brian, you have a guest appearance on a SJSU podcast coming soon, so you might have a little bit more information of what you want to go with first. Tell me, what do we know about the San Jose State Spartans?
The Spartans have played 2 games this year. The San Jose State was off last week in week 1. Week 1 is what I am looking into a little bit more as indicative of who San Jose State is, which is it's just a rough part of early football. I say it about the Big Sky and the FCS about it. It's hard to tell who teams are through about halfway through the season, but I believe because of just the nature of roster turnover, it's more than just like the FCS level. I think essentially much of FBS G5 is going to be like this too, where it takes like a month and change to figure out who in God's name they are. Long way of saying San Jose State sits at 0-2 with a 16-14 loss to a pretty shitty looking Central Michigan Chippewas team. That's, if you don't know, they're from the MAC. Central Chippewas quarterback is Angel Flores, a transfer from, or one of their quarterbacks is Angel Flores, a transfer from NAU who left when he was not the starter at NAU, reference point. And the Spartans also lost 38-7 to Texas. Lots of teams are going to get their ass kicked by Texas this year. I don't draw too much into that other than to say in 2 games, San Jose State has 21 points. So first thing that kind of pops off the page is these dudes are not yet scoring the ball. What's their route to not scoring the ball? Might be a surprise because like my initial thoughts on San Jose State prior to being a guest on the podcast was they run the ball every 2 seconds, right? Because their head coach, Dallas, I'm going to let you do the pronunciation so I don't butcher this. I just know he used to coach at Navy.
Ken Niumatalolo.
Yeah, used to coach at Navy. And as we all know, service academies very often run triple option because of size issues. But that is absolutely not what San Jose State is doing this year. It's not what they did last year. Their OC is a guy named Craig Stutzman, who used to be the OC at Washington State under Nick Rolovich. Side note, kind of wild to see that Stutzman's rehabbed his career just fine, but that's what happens when you don't make yourself the face of some things. Anyway, not trying to get on that tangent, but Stutzman runs a version of the run and shoot called the spread and shred, which is to say San Jose State spreads the ball. Their offense is going to look pretty similar to what we saw at WSU during the Rolovich days, which is to say the Spartans are not – look, if you look at their rushing stats, you will not be bowled over, let's say, which is not what they do. But then that leads to the question of quarterback play, where quarterback for San Jose State right now, Walker Eget, is 45 of 85. FYI, dude, they're thrown it about 48 times per game if you handle that divide by 2 math. Has thrown 2 touchdowns and 3 picks on the year. So that's a long way of saying San Jose State, it's hard to have a definitive opinion on them. There's a glass half full, glass half empty version to talk about them offensively at the very least, which is the glass half empty is we've seen Idaho has 2 of the 3 games. If you were going to pick Idaho apart, the secondary is where you'd want to look for. But the other side is San Jose State can't run the ball. That means you can prep for that team differently, give them different looks. And they've got 3 touchdowns in 8 quarters. That is not exactly lighting the world on fire.
Yeah, exactly. This is a lot different than the Wazoo team from week 1, Brian, where, yes, Wazoo threw all over the Vandals when they tried. But again, they did the Jimmy Rogers thing of we're just going to run the ball right down your throat. And it didn't work. Here, this is a little bit different team. I know, again, Ken Niumatalolo came from Navy where he coached for 20 years. It felt like he's 116-91 in his career. Like the guy's been coaching football a long time, only in his second year here at San Jose State. But they throw the ball 2 to every one run. Like they are a passing team predominantly, and that's what you're going to see. It allows Idaho to do at least a little bit different prep work here. You don't have to worry too much about the running game. When Floyd Chalk IV, no shot against him. He's 5'7", 200 pounds. Looks very similar to Nate Thomas, just a little bowling ball. He's not much of a receiving threat. He has 20 carries for 83 yards on the year. That's their leading runner by a wide margin. It's just one of those things where, hey, it's the run and shoot. They line up in 11 personnel. They have a starting tight end, but realistically, man, the run and shoot is, or excuse me, the spread and shred, as Craig Stutzman calls his version. It's all about motion, moving receivers around and getting receivers out in space, and that's what you're going to see is a huge focus on the passing game. Danny Scudero, the sickos of our listeners might recognize that name. He was a Sac State Hornet last year. He's 5'9", but he leads the team in virtually all receiving stats: 16 catches, 249 yards, and 1 touchdown, which doesn't seem all that impressive when they've scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games. They have a couple other receivers that are 6 foot and 6'4". You're going to see those 3 guys, Danny Scudero, Kyrie Scholes, and Leland Smith, as the 3 guys that are going to be catching the vast majority of the throws from Eget. Watch out for Leland Smith, being 6'4", towers over Idaho's corners. Did not catch a ball against Texas. He's a Purdue transfer. Just one of those big-bodied possession guys. Scares me a little bit, Brian. But when you get to some of the places that Idaho can attack this offense, there's only one offensive lineman that's over 290 pounds. This is a smaller offensive line when you come to the Mountain West and you look at, obviously Wazoo is not a Mountain West school, but realistically they're a Mountain West school. That offensive line was huge. St. Thomas's offensive linemen were bigger than this. Utah Tech's offensive linemen were bigger than this. Now, a lot of those guys were, again, old Mormons, so they were grown-ass men rather than college students. But that's the one place, Brian, that I could see Idaho having some success. That offensive line, yes, their left tackle, it was a preseason all-conference guy. But outside of that, the rest of their line have started, but none of them like scream off the page. None of them scream off the tape. They're certainly good. I mean, they're a Mountain West offensive line. It's not like we're talking about a D2 offensive line here, but these guys are smaller. A little bit better chance for Idaho's defensive line to get after the quarterback when most downs are going to be passing downs in this offense.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's hard for me to not immediately jump to Idaho takeaway here, Dallas, just because of how little there is to know about San Jose State, even trying to use like the transitive property of football. Again, looking at Central Michigan. Central Michigan's other 2 games have been Power 4. They've gotten their ass kicked. So like we have no idea precisely how bad Central Michigan is.
And Rob Akey's not there anymore. Paul Petrino's not there anymore.
There we go. Yeah. So reason to change your analysis there. But you something you talked about with the run and shoot. We have both been open about, hey, Idaho, we know it's a new secondary relative to last season. And that has been where they've been exploited. But I do want to be a little more precise in talking about Idaho's secondary. The ways where I feel they've had trouble is intermediate to deeper passing, or especially like against St. Thomas, leaving the middle open. We talked about how some of that was what the coaching staff described as lack of discipline, people not sticking to their assignments. Now, what I will say is favorable about this matchup for Idaho is wrapping guys up in space is something Idaho has done quite well for all 3 of their games. Now, doesn't mean the run and shoot doesn't spread the field, but it also does use short pass plays to replace the run game. And Idaho has been pretty good about keeping those plays in space to usually pretty short or not that much. That's just not, when teams have exploited Idaho, that is just not the way they've done it this year. So, and you're also hearing me say that because based off the available evidence, I have absolutely no idea what to say about San Jose State defensively. I know, like you in your notes, you referenced, like Idaho, San Jose State has not been fantastic getting to the quarterback this year. This on their very small 2-game sample size, they're in the red on turnover margin. But that's about as much as we can take away from this team. I know San Jose, part of why there's a little bit of trepidation on my part and Dallas' part, and I'm not saying this is correct because we know everyone knows what football in 2025 is, guys. San Jose State did finish 5th in the Mountain West last year, qualified for a bowl game. I don't know what volume of San Jose guys are returning from that roster.
A lot defensively. 15 guys that started a game last year.
Okay. Well, then maybe I should hand the wheel over to you so I'm not filibustering further. Because I think like the average person's takeaway here is, look, I see where Idaho may have some matchup issues. I see where Idaho can have some advantages. This is finally a team that Idaho's not going to be outsized on the D-line, O-line matchup. First time the entire year. But what's San Jose State bringing defensively?
Yeah, San Jose State defensively runs a 3-4 that realistically becomes a 3-3-5 pretty quick, because not a whole lot of teams are trotting out 4 linebackers, since most teams are playing 3 receivers offensively now. For me, Brian, it's the linebackers are the strength of this team, and that always scares me. Their defensive line is really physical. Realistically, they're 3 big Polynesian guys. Like, you know what you're going to get for the most part when you've got a 6'3", 6'4", and higher, and then your defensive linemen are all 290 or bigger. KP Marshall in the comment section, well, those guys on defense for them can't be very good because they're still there and nobody wanted to buy them. That is a really good point, Kevin. That is a really good point.
Thank you, Kevin.
So on defensively, the guys to look out for, Tanyela Latu is their captain. He's one of their outside linebackers. He's probably their best edge rusher. Only has 2.5 tackles for loss and 15 total tackles, no sacks. But again, they played Texas, and then they had a bye week. So you're not going to do much against Texas. Texas jumped out to a 28-0 lead early in the second quarter. And at that point, everybody knew that game was completely over. Their middle linebackers, Brian, specifically, are the ones that are the most scary to me. Jordan Pollard is the senior that kind of just leads the team. He was first team all Mountain West last year. He's on the preseason team this year. Leads the team in tackles, leads the team in pass breakups, which is strange for a linebacker. Recovered the lone fumble. The guy does not leave the field. They are a very heavy starter team. They don't do a lot of rotation. Like Idaho has just seemed to, like, that third linebacker spot has just been a rotating cast of guys coming in. That's not how this team operates. They are very, very, very heavy on, hey, if this game is close, our front 7 is going to be pretty much the same guys. Or front 6 when you drop somebody out and add in the DB. Their DBs are a little bit weaker. They have a captain in the safety room that's really good. Is very much like the Tommy McCormick, like just the heart and soul of the team. Jalen Apollit Williams. Made sure I got that one correct. Outside of that, Brian, this isn't a team that like screams anything defensively. It's just not their identity. This is a team that tries to score more than the other team, and I know that's reductionist. Score more than the other team, that's how you win. But this is not a team that goes out there hoping to win a 6-3 slugfest. This is a team that they hope to put up 50 points and hope the defense just doesn't allow 50. And that's kind of the goal there. The interesting thing for me, Brian, San Jose State has forced a turnover in every single game under Coach Ken. A lot of people just call him Coach Ken because it's significantly less of a mouthful, except against Central Michigan, which again is a game that they lost at home to a team that looks like it's going to be complete and utter dog shit this year. So for me, man, if their defense doesn't force a takeaway, and Idaho's been pretty good about not giving the ball away too much, the defense is not what scares you here. It's the offense and Idaho being able to keep up with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready essentially to talk keys of the game, Dallas, because I think we've got them made. I think it's pretty clear what the key matchups are going to be, yeah. But I think we need to hear about a different key contributor before we hit keys of the game.
We absolutely do, Brian. Pacific Custom Sportswear, guys. Vandal owned and operated. They're here in Spokane, Washington, just down the road from me. But the big thing, their website is vandalgear.com or fightintaters.com. I've got the Fightin' Taters sweatshirt on right now. For those of you listening on Spotify or podcast services, well, you can't really see it, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I've got the Fightin' Taters sweatshirt on. We've got it shown up here on the website. You want it in a sweatshirt, you want it in a t-shirt, you want it in a crew neck, you name it, they've got it. couple different colors too. A lot of people like the historic black and gold. I like the gray and gold myself. There's also, again, if you loved last week's Big Sky Conference throwbacks that were the yellows with those silver stripes, man, Jeff got some of those up on t-shirts here too. There's Idaho football, there's Kibbe Dome, home of the Vandals. There's a handful of different ones. There's even Vandalizer t-shirts up here, guys. Super nice quality. Again, I've got a couple Fighting Taters pieces of merch now. Absolutely love them. Very comfortable. And guys, they can work with just about anything. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I need somebody to print me off a bunch of t-shirts that say, I don't know, FUBSU. Hell yeah. Reach out to Pacific Custom Sportswear. You can reach out to them on vandalgear.com. You can just reach out to Brian and I, and we'll get you their contact information. They'll work with you and your company to make any sort of logoing and embroidery printing that you want done. But again, for most of us, vandalgear.com, guys, some of the best gear out there for the Vandals. It's also very affordable too. Very, very cheap stuff compared to, honestly, the better prices in the bookstore, significantly better prices than home field. I absolutely love it. Get your Vandal gear today at vandalgear.com. Brian, keys to the game.
You know, on the Idaho end, this to me is essentially a one side Idaho, one side San Jose State. Idaho on the year has rushed it 127 times, passed it 70 times. If you're curious, that's essentially a very close to a 66, 34 rush to pass ratio. Meaning, if you've watched, Idaho wants to run the ball. Yes, some of those are Josh Wood turning passes into runs, but for the most part, that's not how Joshua Wood has rushed the ball. I say that because I think one of there's a double-edged matchup here of Idaho running the football. The one end is, hey, can San Jose State slow them down? Kind of the brain dead one, right? That's Spartans' side. The other is we've seen Idaho kind of rotate. I mean, the emphasis might be the wrong term, but let's just say it's pretty clear Matt Linehan is still evolving as a play caller. And against WSU, I really did think Idaho. We rehashed that game, but in short, Idaho could have been much more aggressive that game had they chose to. Then against St. Thomas, that's where Idaho was closest to 50-50 pass rush, is 25-36. That was Joshua Wood's best game. And then last week, Joshua Wood threw it 25 times again, had 3 drops that would have blown open his stats closer to around 200, which is a long way of saying the Idaho question is, A, can they run the ball? B, will they be insistent on needing to run the ball to win this game? Or if Idaho is not able to run the ball effectively, to what extent are they going to allow Joshua Wood to take the game over? Because I believe there's going to be a few games this year where Idaho really does need to be quarterback centric, both through the air and on the ground. And to pick up a win, I would in no way be shocked if this is one of your 2 or 3 games where you say Joshua Wood is going to be the guy offensively who makes or breaks what happens for Idaho. We've seen him look very good on short to intermediate passes. Hasn't been able to take the top off the defense. However, he actually did that against Utah Tech, just the pass was dropped. But I guess that's my first key I'm looking at is it's the Idaho run game. Idaho is going to attempt to impose its will on the ground. Can San Jose State slow it down? And if San Jose State can, will Idaho allow Joshua Wood to take over?
Mm-hmm. I would give a slight bit of pushback there, Brian. And it's not really even pushback. I think we're both kind of landing on the same point here. But if you're Idaho, you got to keep running the football. Again, Joshua Wood is going to have to get a win here. Joshua Wood is going to have to make some big plays. But I also do not want Idaho to abandon the run after the second or third drive if it's not working. You got to stick with it at least a little bit. And again, maybe it's just different concepts. Maybe you try some outside zone. If the inside isn't working, maybe sprinkle in some power in there. Let's see a guard pull. I'd love it. But the big thing there, yes, you can't, obviously, if you're down 2 touchdowns, you can't be running the ball. But clock control is going to be how you survive this game. Your road dogs, they're favored by 2 touchdowns, I think. So when you're on the road, you control the clock, You don't turn the ball over. You hit the big plays when it matters most. And yes, those are going to have to come from Joshua Wood's arm. I don't expect to see Art Williams popping off a 65-yard run this week. However, that doesn't mean you can't abandon. If you abandon the run, I mean, you're walking away from your identity. Ford has been pretty clear this year that this team is going to win by playing good defense and running the football.
Yeah, so one minor clarification on that. When I say that, a team that runs the ball 2 out of every 3 plays runs the ball a shit ton. So if Idaho were to be actually 50-50 this game, that would be a significant change in strategy relative to the previous 3 games. That is more what I mean of allowing Joshua Wood to have a greater impact on this game. Because last week, look, hey, we feel better about the offensive line, right? I think that's been pretty open this last season. But we do need to acknowledge the evidence in front of us. Last week was the very first time a running back led Idaho in yards per rush, and it was the very first time Idaho running backs have averaged more than 4 yards per carry. Doesn't mean they weren't productive in spaces, but for example, against WSU, it was not running backs who have pumped Idaho's rushing totals to what they are. It is not running backs who are the number 2 overall rusher in the Big Sky Conference right now for Idaho. Isn't to say I don't think they're going to abandon the ground game. That's part of their strategy, and that's part of, like you said, keeping them off the field. But there's a difference between the level of conservative we saw versus WSU, or if we want to talk Utah Tech, where Idaho did move the ball, but look, the drives did sputter, and some of them were drops, but that was not the drives did not kind of struggle once they got to around the 30-yard line against Utah Tech for no reason. Now, having heard the coaching staff in their postgame, I think, and their press conference this week, I think that staff feels like they know what the issues were against Utah Tech and feel that it's something that's imminently correctable. Because I will say the tone of the coverage, both local media and the coaches themselves from that Idaho game, there were times where I was just Dallas, to be open, I messaged you about this after we recorded the post game because Idaho did well last week. There are a lot of things they did well offensively, and it was 13-6 against a really shitty Utah Tech team with 6 minutes left to go. Finishing drives like that is going to be a great way for Idaho to not be competitive for the entirety of, not be competitive is wrong. San Jose State, to me, I think is a winnable game. It's a different matchup than WSU, but it's the type of game where San Jose State is not going to shoot themselves in the foot for trying to force feed the run, which is, I think, going to change what the final score is going to be, which is to say, I do think to some extent, Idaho is going to have to put points on the board in a way they did against St. Thomas, more like that, and different from what we saw for the WSU game or for essentially 3.5 quarters of Utah Tech.
Yeah, I fully agree on that, Brian. Defensively, I think this one's pretty obvious. You have to get to the quarterback. They're not going to gash you on the run on the running game. I mean, they certainly will if you're not committed to your gaps and keeping integrity there. But this is not a team that's going to come try to put up 300 yards on the ground. This is a team that is going to try to throw all over the field and use this as a get-right game. That's what Idaho is getting paid to come in, right? They're getting paid to come in and lose this game after a dog shit showing against Central Michigan that is a game you should not have lost. And then you go on the road to Texas where you're the one getting paid to do absolutely nothing. So Idaho coming in off of a bye week, this is 100% a week San Jose State is going to look to get themselves right. What that means for Idaho, you have to get pressure to the quarterback. If you can't get pressure to the quarterback, why are we even having this conversation? That is the only way you're going to be able to keep that offense off.
The other defensive thing for Idaho, and I do think this is something where we may see like, hey, what type of play caller is Court Dennison? Because the stated mission for Idaho in weeks 1 through 3 was always sell out on stopping the run, sell out on stopping the run, sell out on stopping the run. Additionally, coaching staff and players have been open that Dennison gives them lots of different looks. This is the first game of the entire season where I guarantee practice's focus was not solely dictated on selling out to stop the run. So I guess I don't have anything magic to say here, Dallas, but I want to see how Court Dennison, how his approach to a team passing the ball looks different than what we saw last season. Lots of cover 4, keep guys in front of you. Hopefully you wrap them up. Now, keeping guys in front of you and wrapping them up quick has been a strength of Idaho, but a team that runs a spread shred, run shoot, whatever, they will be more content to throw a few, throw passes for 2 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, and have their own version of longer drives. And there's a chance then, like, hey, just keep guys in front of you might not be enough. Or the math is, yeah, we might give up some yards, but really buckle down when we get to that 30, 20, get around to that red zone time.
Mm-hmm. Brian, for San Jose State, I think it's pretty obvious here. For them, they're going to look to shred the secondary. I think everybody on the show, everybody in our comment section, everybody that's watched a Vandal football game this year would say right now the secondary is probably the weakest spot of this team. Deuce Blendman has been good. The safeties are getting better. Caleb Ricks is doing a good job as a true freshman coming in and starting in the Big Sky Conference. But relative to the rest of the team, this is the weak point. San Jose State is absolutely going to try to shred the secondary. Like you've been saying, this is the first week that you go into the game knowing we're not selling out to stop the run, because this is a team that's going to throw it. The run and shoot is very similar to the air raid, especially. It's part of why Rolovich got hired into Wazoo at the first place and brought in Craig Stutzman, was because they're moving from the air raid to the run and shoot. It didn't work super well, weirdly enough, but a lot of the same concepts are there. A lot of the mesh concept, which I believe is the greatest concept in football, they're both going to use that very heavily. This is a team that's going to throw the ball. They're going to target the secondary. You have to be ready for that ball. I'd love to see a pick, maybe even 2, but even just a couple batted down balls will change the trajectory of this game. Syllables are hard. Brian, any other thoughts on SJSU and what they need to do?
No, other than to say, I think this game matters. Sometimes I like to think about the game matters, how the game matters for teams. On the one end for Idaho, like a loss to San Jose State, it's kind of like a loss to WSU. Like no one actually cares. I mean, obviously players care, but in big picture, it doesn't really change Idaho's playoff positioning much. Like if, the Vandals are worst case scenario going to be 2-2 heading into Big Sky play with 2 FBS losses. That's a very similar resume to school like Montana State. On the flip side, a win would mean just a shit ton to Idaho, as in launching Idaho into this discussion for top 4 seed. Like a win here would be, to me, that big of a deal. On the San Jose State end, this is a must win for the Spartans and their fan base. They're sitting at 0-2. They're a team that their identity is offensively. They've scored 3 touchdowns in 8 quarters. They looked very bad against a very bad Central Michigan team. It feels like there's a lot more at stake this game than honestly even the WSU game. Because Washington State, one, I think they thought they're going to walk over Idaho.
Yeah.
But 2, I think San Jose State, they're kind of in the same world of Idaho in that if they're actually okay, because San Jose State has been bad at football for a long time. Last year, making a bowl game was a very big deal for San Jose State. I feel like they're one of the teams like Idaho who every winnable game feels like the Super Bowl, and not in a good way. And I just don't think we're going to get a San Jose State team that's going to be overlooking Idaho because of what it would mean for these guys to sit at 0-3.
Yeah, I will slight pushback, Brian. They have made a bowl game in 4 of the last 5 seasons. But the 15 years before that, San Jose State was absolute dog shit. And it was Brent Brennan, the current Arizona head coach, that saved that program by getting again 3 seasons of 7 wins in his last 4 years there. So this is a school that needs these wins. This is not a program that is consistently successful. As again, this is some of the best years in their programs. At least, in the last 25 years. These are some of the best years of their program, and they've had 7 wins 4 out of the last 5 years, and that's success for them. And man, we've seen that as Vandal fans, where that is the barometer of success. But for me, the last thing I want to say about SJSU is coming into this, they are looking to force a turnover. Hopefully multiple for them. Obviously, we don't want to see that, but they're going to come in and their defense has not performed particularly well this year. Again, Texas, that's a wash. But when the only game you haven't had a turnover of Coach Ken's career is Central Michigan at home in a game that you should have won, man, that you're probably going to come out pretty motivated for the bye game. That you gotta really prove it that you look like you belong in the Mountain West. Which honestly, the Mountain West isn't even very good. They could still finish in the top 3 or 4, even being a shit team.
Well, and that's another reason why this game, to me, is I call it winnable for Idaho. Is again, hey, we know transitive property football doesn't necessarily matter. There have been a lot of competitive Big Sky Mountain West games this year. And the volume of the Big Sky has lost all those games, although Northern Colorado got absolutely screwed against Colorado State. But the volume of one score Mountain West Big Sky games tells me it cannot be that the Mountain West team is not showing up all the time. What it I really believe that we're getting to a point that the top of the Big Sky is closing in on the mid-ish level of the Mountain West. Oh, yeah. And to bring that up for another key for me, this is another mutual Idaho San Jose State is third down. We know Idaho is a team that gets to third down a bit, but that's part of ball control. If you're getting to 3rd and 3, you're fine with 3rd and 3. That's part of what Idaho does. San Jose State's key is they're going to want to force Idaho into those 3rd and longs or those 2nd and 9s, or 2nd and 11, whatever. Trying to stop Idaho on the ground, especially early, is going to be key to me for San Jose State to make Idaho have to abort what will probably be the main game plan, which is, of course, to run the football. Thomas Ford's been open about that. And you can just look at the Idaho games. What do they do first? They run. If San Jose State's able to get Idaho into those 3rd and longs, that's where I think Matt Linehan's going to be tested a little bit. However, if Idaho's able to continue the game plan that has worked for the most part, the majority of the season is, they're getting into 2nd and 5. They're getting into 3rd and 2. That's part of how San Jose State gets kept on ice, and this suddenly becomes a game where San Jose State is having to fight for their lives, which has been a trend in Idaho FBS games for the last 4 years.
And that's something that Coach Ford talked about in the press conference this week, that Jason Eck built in a belief in this program that, yeah, sure, we're a level lower than these FBS schools, but that doesn't mean you guys can't play football. That doesn't mean you guys just magically forget how to do your job when you show up. Yeah, they might be bigger recruited and they might have more money and they might have X and Y and Z, but when it comes down to it, you still have to execute the plays. And when you're executing the plays, you can go beat the shit out of a good team. You can beat the shit out of these teams that are above you, especially when, Brian, you look around the Mountain West, we could turn this into a 45-minute just diatribe about the Mountain West might not be better than the Big Sky this year. The Mountain West is awful. We'll see what San Jose State ends up at the end of the year, but there's a legitimate chance that San Jose State is either a top 3 team or a bottom 3 team, and it who knows, because it's just a complete crapshoot right now. Where UNLV's not any good, Wyoming's not any good, Nevada's awful, Hawaii's awful, San Diego State can't throw the ball, they can't move the ball at all. The Mountain West has fallen, guys. So this is not the Paul Petrino era of, oh man, we're gonna go get pasted by, again, I know Wazoo's was Pac-12 and is Pac-12, but we're not going to go get pasted by these schools in FBS and just collect a paycheck. Guys are going into this knowing, yeah, we're the underdogs, but fuck it, we don't care. We can go out there and we can compete, and we've seen it, like you said, Brian, for the last 3 years, 4 now if we count the Wazoo game from your week 1. Man, Idaho goes out and competes. We haven't seen that in a long time, and now for the last 4 years, it has been a consistent Idaho's going to go compete in this game. I do not see San Jose State blowing this team out. We'll get to our pick'ems shortly, and then we'll get to our score predictions. But man, this is not a game on paper that I'm like, wow, Idaho, you got to get out of here healthy. We've talked about that before. This does not feel like one of those games. Any final thoughts on or keys, Brian, before we get to, well, maybe a little bit of a drink break first, but then we'll get to the Big Sky.
Yeah, well, I do want to hit one thing for a second. It's in the comment section. I think it was Crewhead76 who said it. My bad for missing it. Is Idaho cannot beat themselves this game. You should never expect a team to only get 5 yards in penalties, as a per game average, of course, but it needs to look closer to Utah Tech penalty wise than it did, against St. Thomas. Those almost turnovers, they need to actually be turnovers this game. And, against WSU, it was fumbles. Against St. Thomas, not St. Thomas, against Utah Tech, to me, it was more drop passes and missed field goals. Idaho just cannot have the chance to capitalize on drives, whether it's from long strikes or whether it's from, hey, like we're settling for 3, but points are points at this point. Mm-hmm. Idaho just cannot have those Vandals beating the Vandals moments. I do think there's an upward, meaning positive trajectory there and look at Ford being willing to adjust, and hey, Denison too. Like defensively, the discipline was far better against Utah Tech. But even look at Ford in the game last week. Pope misses 2 field goals. He says, okay, it's time to go to option B. You missed 3 out of 5. Like that's a sample size, man. Mm-hmm. And Owen Forsman goes 2 for 2. We know Forsman, has a leg. Obviously, he has to prove he has the accuracy. He's 2 for 2 so far, but I just say that because, well, he didn't win the job outright. So obviously there's a reason Cameron Pope won the job prior to the season starting. But I'm pointing to that because we have seen Idaho evolve honestly a lot over the course of the 3 games, enough that you kind of have to put together trends to decide what you truly believe Idaho is. And I believe Idaho is I believe this is a good football team that is going to correct these issues we've had. But the flip side of that is it's also been some like minor issues that have been a little bit different each game, which is just the trend itself of Idaho not capitalizing when it can, or Idaho making the game harder on themselves than they need to. Mm-hmm. If that can be a non-factor for Idaho, that is another thing that completely flips the script of what this game could be.
Brian, you mentioned the special teams in there. I did want to very quickly shout out. Coach Ford did say in his weekly press conference, special teams is the focus this week. You cannot keep having 14 play drives that end with 0 points. You can't have a 60-yard play to take you to the red zone and then score no points. You can't allow the opposing team to convert a fake punt. You can't muff a punt. You can't. He laid out all of the issues with special teams over especially in the last week, but the 2 weeks before that. I would expect to see at least a little bit of improvement. Yeah, we might see Owen Forsman go down there and miss a field goal. That's going to happen, especially with a kicking situation that is not settled yet. But all in all, I'm expecting to see that special teams unit at least improve a little bit. Very last thing before I let you get to our break here. Eli Cummings not expected to play. He is still listed as the leader on the depth chart, but he is not likely to play. It is not a season-ending injury, but he is not likely to play. And coach is very optimistic that we will see Michael Graves against San Jose State. So that would be a huge boon for the passing offense if you can get the speedster back to at least take the top off the defense a little bit.
No, I think it's going to be the Art Williams show on the ground this week. Yeah. But something else I think I know pretty good is if you're going to go to the Idaho State liquor stores, you have got to grab Snake River Stampede Canadian whiskey. There's 2 options, your entry-level Stampede or your small batch 1915. Both are 3-grain whiskeys, 80% corn, 10% rye, 10% malted barley. Both have double barrel finishes where your Stampede is ex-bourbon to Oloroso sherry casks. Your 1915 is ex-bourbon to ex-Canadian rye whiskey casks. You can't go wrong either way. They're great whiskeys, easily the top 2 Canadian whiskeys in state of Idaho stores in my mind. But secondarily, they're both actually really economic buys. Your small batch is $38.95. Your Stampede is $25.95. 2 of the best buys you're going to get in Idaho State liquor stores. Grab yourself a Snake River today.
Gentlemen, that takes us to picking the Big Sky, brought to us by Snake River Stampede Whiskey. Thanks again, guys. Last week, Brian, Martin, and Colby all went 9-1. And I unfortunately went 10-0 because I picked Montana to win. And Martin, I know that that's taxed against you. Brian, I'm not sure what you were doing not picking Montana. I know that you love the Grizz more than most of us do. And by that, I mean you tolerate the Grizz, which is something most of us don't do. Getting to picking the Big Sky, guys.
We do. Martin has a special announcement people do need to be aware of.
As I said last week, we are not picking D1 games this week, and sadly, I know
you
Brian
mean
is
sub?
disappointed.
We are not picking sub D1 games.
Fuck yeah, I'm still tired.
Okay, so there's going to be 20 minutes of Lincoln Idaho State preview.
Yep, we are doing Jungle Land podcast job for them. We are not picking sub D1 games, so sadly, Brian does not get to talk about Lincoln, his favorite school outside of Idaho.
I like padding my stats.
That is fair. It is unfortunate, Brian. You do not get to talk your Bengal hour again, usurping Jungle Land as the best sports podcast in Pocatello. But we carry on to the actual games that matter, the Division I games, guys. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Mercyhurst at Montana State. Martin.
I'm gonna go Montana State.
Mercyhurst hung with Sac State for about 3/4 of the game last week, and that will not repeat itself. No, worth watching, guys. Montana State offensively is not the team they were last year. Justin Lamson has looked pretty damn effective throwing the ball, running the ball too. One of the trends we're actually looking at in the Big Sky this year is a lot more teams, their offenses are kind of completely quarterback centric. Montana State is no exception, but if you're wanting to know what the Bobcats do differently now, they have not been that great on the ground, not terrible. But Lamson has been one of the best looking quarterbacks of the early out of conference season.
Yeah. I mean, guys, you got the analysis from Brian. There's no way that any of us were going to pick Mercyhurst in Bozeman. Yeah, give me the Bobcats all day, every day. Let's stick in Montana, guys. Indiana State against the Grizz.
I think we all know where I'm going with this Indiana State, but before I take up more time, I do want to know, Ron, if Mercyhurst somehow pulls off the win of the century, what are you going to do? That's what I want to know, Ron. Please let us know in the comments.
Martin, we don't promote self-harm on the show. Why would you bring this up in the first place? So, look, Montana's going to be favored to win. They should win. They're off a top 10 win over North Dakota last week. By the way, North Dakota probably feels like they gave that game away. The thing you're looking for with Montana is twofold. One, through a couple games, this is a pretty bad Montana Grizzly defense. Against North Dakota, they were outgained by not quite 100 yards, but like about 75, 80. And North Dakota just didn't capitalize. The other end is Montana's. It still looks like the Grizz, and I think that's just who they are. I know they're sticking with Ayotte at quarterback, who's been okay. Four TDs, 4 picks through 2 games, counting D2 Central Washington. But the Grizz aren't moving the ball that well. I mean, and I think they're just kind of easy to prep for because everyone knows they want to be conservative. So Eli Gilman gets a lot of guys in the box. But the other thing is, in week 1, it looked like maybe Montana was going to be interesting with how they used Michael Wortham. Then week 2, the dude gets like 4 catches. It's like 4 touches or around there for virtually no production. So a lot of questions in Montana, but Indiana State sucks. So, and even with Montana having questions, they did just pick up a top 10 win. So going with the Grizz.
Yeah, Indiana State has beaten a D2 school. They beat Eastern Illinois, who is decent enough, and then absolutely got crushed 73-0 against FBS Indiana last week, which is not something the Vandals have done. Vandals have hung with those Hoosiers. Now they're Tom Allen's Hoosiers, and Tom Allen was a dog shit coach, so was kind of expected. Kurt Signetti significantly better there, but all of this to say, Indiana State's not happening. Love to root for the Sycamores. Travis Thompson, shout out the Sycamores down with Montana, but man, I got to go for Grizz again in this one. That takes us to Incarnate Turd at Northern Arizona.
I'm gonna go NAU.
You know, NAU has been a different version of exactly what I thought they'd be this year. You know, they found a way to give up 31 points to Utah Tech in spite of only allowing 294 yards. And last week, NAU narrowly beat Southern Utah 52-49. Had a pretty big comeback to secure that win. But Southern Utah look like okay, like they killed Idaho State, then found a way to lose to San Diego. The thing that's real about NAU is Ty Pennington looks like he's if you had to pick the best pure passer, just strictly passer in the Big Sky, you'd probably have to go with Pennington. They do have that going for them. On the other hand, and part of me wants to say like, hey, maybe Incarnate Word is not as bad as they looked week one, but I'm not yet sold. Also, like Eastern was sort of competitive with them, and I think Eastern sucks. So I'm probably going to go NAU. And I'm struggling with actually enunciating this because NAU with 3 wins, being 3-1 heading into Big Sky play is it's going to be the best resume in the Big Sky.
Yeah, especially if they knock off Utah Tech, Southern Utah, and then a ranked Incarnate Word. I'm going NAU here as well, only because I don't know if I believe in Incarnate Word, guys. They lost to Nichols, who might not be very good. And it was just the week 0 miracle victory, but then barely beat Eastern. They let Eastern hang in that game, and again, I think Eastern might be the worst team in the Big Sky. Outside of the Portland State, who doesn't count. I think Eastern might be the worst team in the Big Sky, which is saying something from what that program used to be a decade ago. Give me NAU. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't necessarily a lot of comments saying NAU. I don't believe in NAU. NAU gave up a lot of points. They don't play a great defense. All valid points. I don't love anybody in this matchup, but man, give me NAU, especially because it's in Flagstaff. I feel like it's going to be a close one, but they're going to slip it in there. Western Illinois at Eastern. Speak of the devil.
I'm just going to go with Eastern. I think the Fighting Patties of Eastern Washington win this one.
Yeah, this is a coin flip, guys. Western Illinois, formerly of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, no longer. They sit at 1-2. Their 2 losses are to Illinois and Northwestern, and their 1 win is over Valparaiso, a not particularly great FCS program, you'd say.
A not particularly great pioneer school.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they lost to a D3 football team, their D3 bye game, or whatever it is.
They did against Adrian. They lost 10-7.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well,
Eastern's not good.
Eastern's been at least kind of competitive a couple games. Their new quarterback, Nate Bell, is I honestly, Eastern's a hard team to talk about this year because they suck, and it's a story I don't like. Eastern being able to do what they did for so many years relative to who they are was a great story, and it was good for the Big Sky. And I think Eastern just sucks this year. They're going to suck with Jared Taylor. They're going to suck now, right? The guy replacing Jared Taylor, Nate Bell, is a dual threat quarterback as well. Led the team in rushing against Northern Iowa, 14 rushes for 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. Threw it 35 times for 159 total yards. But then, like, the running backs for Eastern are essentially, they contributed virtually nothing throughout that game. So, like, the Eastern was entirely a quarterback-centric offense with their backup quarterback. So I don't feel good about picking anyone in this game, but at least Eastern's been kind of competitive a couple times. I will highly recommend doing your best to not look at any crowd shots for this game Eastern has, because I think it is going to be ugly. But I guess by default, I'm going with Eastern.
Yeah, Crewhead 76 nailed it in the comment section. A directional school will win. Most folks in the comment section picking Eastern. As Turner Webb says, Aaron Wurst may have a chance. I got to go Eastern here because it is at home. I don't believe in Western Illinois. Again, congrats on Valpo. again, they lost to a D3 school at home. Like that's pretty embarrassing. And that's not D3 St. Thomas. We're kicking you out of D3 because you're so good. That was a just generic D3 school. So give me Eastern in a game that realistically the winners are those who don't watch it. Nick Weber feels like a sub D1 game. Yes, agree very much on that, Nick. Speaking of sub D1 games, Northern Colorado at Houston Christian.
I don't know much about Houston Christian, but I'm going to go with Norco on the road, and they get a road win.
Yeah, this is easy. Northern Colorado. The Bears sit at 1-2. They're about 3 plays away from being 3-0. That loss to South Dakota was in overtime. That loss to Colorado State was bullshit. They should have won that game. That call should not have been overturned. Northern Colorado is weirdly, they still can't score that well. They scored exactly 17 every single game. Would have been 24 if they didn't get fucked on that call. But look, they've scored even with that exception, Dallas. They're still not that different from last season. Of Northern Colorado certainly not putting a ton of points on the board. They're down to a backup quarterback because their starter Castelli went out in game 1. But what has been steady, and this is the thing that when Northern Colorado couldn't move the ball at all these last few years, their defense does wear out. But through those 3 games, Northern Colorado has looked like they're pretty good defensively. And compared to the shitty teams in the Big Sky, there's a lot of reason to say Northern Colorado looks like they're the single bad team who knows what their identity is best. And they at least have a facet of the game that they can feel like they're, at least approaching the top half of the conference in. Mm-hmm. So I'm going Northern Colorado.
Yeah, I'm also going Northern Colorado here. Again, almost got Colorado State a couple weeks ago. Almost got South Dakota last week. Again, close games against good teams. Realistically, it doesn't mean anything. There's still losses. But, man, when you look at Houston Christian and what they've done this year, which is beat an NAIA school 69-0. Nice. And then lose to Eastern Kentucky in a semi-close-ish game, and then absolutely get your butthole blown out against Nebraska. Look, it's real hard to recover from a 59-7 loss, especially when you're going to go play. Brian is just losing it over there. Especially when you are going to play a Northern Colorado team that is not the dog shit Northern Colorado that we've seen for the last 3 years. Brian is continuing to lose it. Just really not expecting to hear about buttholes being blown out, I guess. Yeah, that's a sweep for Northern Colorado. Perfect drop in there.
It just kept getting worse. And I heard the anatomical reference, like, oh God, where's this going? And then whatever direction I thought it was gonna go, Izzy Hammer, that's my husband, everyone. Sorry, the reference to a prolapse was not what I thought was coming on the show. So well done, Dallas.
Well, I am a Nebraska fan. That was the team I grew up watching as a kid because there wasn't a ton of Idaho coverage that was easily accessible, especially when we didn't have cable a lot. So Nebraska was pretty easy to get on TV back then. Anyways, so I am intimately familiar with how bad Houston Christian was the previous week. But moving on to yet another dog shit team, Cal Poly at Stephen F. Austin.
I just off my quick research of Stephen F. Austin, because I'm doing this on the fly. Stephen F. Austin's only win is a sub D1 game versus Sol Russ State 63-0. I don't trust Cal Poly. I'm gonna go with that other purple team from Texas. That's not Abilene Christian.
Martin, I love how you presented the case for Stephen F. Austin as they have done absolutely nothing this year. I'm definitely going to be picking them to win this game. I don't have a ton of pushback there because I don't really believe in Cal Poly yet. I know they beat San Diego. We don't talk about D2 or lower games, so not going to talk about Western Oregon. You guys know what happened there. Stephen F. Austin, hey, their quarterback Sam Vidlak, he was all league level player last year, was on the short list for the Walter Payton Award. Obviously did not get it, should not have got it, but Vidlak's been able to play Stephen F. Austin in a way that when he was at Montana, honestly, I saw him. I was like, well, of course he's working his way down. He's found some freedom in Stephen F. Austin. We know he can play, and we know that Cal Poly can stop no one. So I'm going to go with Stephen F. Austin. Cal Poly, to me, they're one of those teams that even if they pick up like a garbage Pioneer League win, until they do it against anyone who might be kind of maybe almost okay, I'm not going to give them any credit. So that's kind of the default Stephen F. Austin pick.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with that as well. Cal Poly has a rivalry with San Diego at this point because they play every single year. Honestly, that game's a coin flip. I don't believe anybody has won that in back-to-back years. It's just constantly Cal Poly wins it one year, San Diego gets it the next. That's just how it goes. Don't take anything from that game. Take solace in Cal Poly is dog shit. They have continued to be dog shit for a very long time. They will continue to be dog shit after this discussion, after this week's game. They're still going to be dog shit. Take Stephen F. Austin. Guys, this is everybody's favorite team to talk about other than Idaho. So I've been looking forward to this one. Central Arkansas at Sacramento State. Because I know how much everybody loves Hornet talk on this podcast.
We were talking about whatever the fucking field is. I think Central Arkansas has a really funky turf. I can't remember.
Yeah, the PJ field, purple and gray.
Yeah, the PJ. Yeah, the purple. Yeah, the PJ field. Yeah, purple and gray. I'm gonna go Sacramento State.
Yep, Sack with a silent K. Turner Webb knows what he's talking about. So I think last week against Mercyhurst, Sacramento State almost had the embarrassment of the entire season in the Big Sky, but the Hornets did put it together. So I guess your question is, hey, is Sacramento State closer to that last quarter against Mercyhurst and just took them a minute to get there or not? I do know a thing to pay attention to as an evolving issue for the Hornets is we've talked about the transfers in, how they have two quarterbacks that lots of Big Sky teams have been happy to have. Neither of those guys can accurately throw the football at all, but Sac was able to run the ball against Mercyhurst. I'm going to go with Sacramento State here because I just have to believe that maybe Marion was also thrown off at how bad Jane Rashada and Cardell Williams have been as guys throwing the football. But the Hornets were really able to run the ball last week, which you should against goddamn Mercyhurst. But I think maybe what Sac figured out is more, okay, the roadmap to W's is just not what they thought it was. And I believe Marion has to be smart enough to adjust.
Yeah, and I think that's what we saw a little bit with Sac State last week was that adjustment of, hey, Jaden Rashada sucks. He's a big name and has not succeeded anywhere in football other than getting paid or not getting paid from Florida, depending on your look. But Cardell Williams, yeah, he was still completed under 50% of his passes last week and didn't look necessarily exceptional. But I think they have clearly made the shift of, hey, we have two good running backs, Rodney Hammond and Damian Henderson. Let's give them both the ball. Let's give Cardell Williams a shot at being the quarterback and just, hey, dude, don't fuck it up. And that seems to be like there's enough talent and a decent enough coach there. That seems to be the path forward now. I don't know how well that's going to succeed throughout the Big Sky. I think the shine of, man, I personally I love the go-go offense. I think it's genius. I think that's worn off a little bit just in the fact that it hasn't looked very good so far in 3 weeks, and it's early, but nothing about Central Arkansas is screaming out as they're going to pull it off. Okay, they lost to Missouri, which is expected. They got crushed by Tarleton State, so they're getting killed by the top of the FCS. But if Sac State is talking about getting out of the Big Sky and getting to big boy football in the FBS, this is a game you got to win. And if you don't win this game, maybe you should be talking about D3 like Eastern is. But give me Sac State. Butler at Weber State, the fighting Colby Petersons.
The fighting Colby Petersons win this one. It's a Pioneer League team, right, Brian?
Sure. Yeah, Butler's Pioneer League. Weber absolutely has to pick up this win and get to 2-2. They're able to run the football all right against McNeese. They did put up 42 points. Jackson Gilkey, transferred from UTSA, quarterback, has looked pretty bad through 3 games so far. Even in the W, he threw a touchdown and 2 picks. But this is the kind of game that the only Big Sky teams that lose these games are just positively atrocious teams. And I think Weber is more garden variety bad. So Wildcats.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Weber State in this one as well, because it's really hard to tell what Butler is. They've beat a D3 school and a D2 school. Congrats. Nobody gives a fuck. So give me Weber State, because it is at home. It is against the Butler program that nobody really knows what to expect, because again, your victories are over a D3 and D2 school. Congrats. Southern Utah, future Big Sky Southern Utah at UC Davis.
I'm gonna go Davis.
Davis, but they're on notice. The Aggies, they sit at 1-1. Realistically, I believe they'd be 1-2 if their week 0 game was able to conclude.
Yep.
And I say they're on notice because they've had more than half their quarters that they've played. Davis fans would probably call it disappointing. And just as you're a Vandal fan, we know Idaho's good defensively, but did you look at Utah Tech and wonder how they could score like 24? I mean, 31 is an NAU reference, but how they could be up 24-7 against anyone who's supposed to be good. So I'm picking Davis. The other thing is, I feel like Southern Utah, there's a little asterisk after week 1 because they murdered Idaho State. But since they've played tight games against San Diego and, as I mentioned already, NAU, which is to say they've shown they can find ways to lose against good and shitty teams. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go Davis. But this game, I do think there's a little bit more of a microscope on Davis, because I think if we're being honest about early returns, Davis is probably the most disappointing Big Sky team so far.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. If you're looking at Davis, I mean, realistically, you should be 1-2. This is nut up or shut up time right here. If you're really a top 10 team in the FCS, it's probably time to kick somebody's fucking teeth in, and Southern Utah is probably the team you should be doing that to. They beat Idaho State pretty soundly. Then they lost to San Diego. They lost to NAU last week. What is it, 52-49? The complete barn burner, no defense there. If you're UC Davis, like this is the time to put this team down and show you belong as one of those Montana State, Idaho upper echelon schools. Otherwise, if you struggle to put them away, man, other than the Idaho game that I think everyone and their grandma knows they're going to win, because that's just how UC Davis is. Outside of that, man, there's not a whole lot of bright spots here for UC Davis these few weeks in. You should be looking a whole lot better than you have, and you haven't. Crew at 76. I don't fear the stash. It needs some work. Yeah, we're not going to be singing the Mr. Plow song for him anytime soon. Anyways, guys, Martin, I got to give you a shout out for Indiana State, because you were the only person to pick a different game so far. We have all picked the exact same, other than again your Montana Tax. That takes us to the final game of the weekend. It is Idaho at San Jose State. Guys, remember, if you like what we're doing, patreon.com/Tubs at the Club. If you don't like what we're doing, really go to patreon.com/Tubs at the Club. It's how you get into the Only Tubs Discord. It's the best place to talk Vandal football. This being the first true road game of the year, this is probably going to be the loudest and largest game thread that we've had all season. It's been a blast in the dome. Guys firing off opinions and thoughts left and right. But here there's not going to be a whole lot of us in San Jose. This is the time. Join us. It's less than a cup of coffee a month to come hang out and just talk Vandal football during game day. And then again, just get to talk about anything else you want Vandal related. But guys, Idaho at San Jose State. Martin, your final thoughts and your prediction.
I remember in the preview show I picked them to lose this, predicted them to lose this game. And I think I said I think they were going to at least win one FBS game. I still think they're going to win one FBS game. Fuck, words are hard today. I'm going to go with Idaho 22, San Jose State 17 in their fucking, one second. God damn it, I didn't fucking have it up, but this god-awful stadium they have. A fucking thing.
Come on, Martin, get it up. Hashtag only tubs.
This
Oh.
god awful thing they have.
There we go. Yeah. Their stadium is well, it needs work. It's needed
lopsided.
work for a while.
It is very lopsided and it is ugly.
I don't remember who it was in the comment section earlier, but mentioned noise will not likely be a problem at this stadium. No, as far
I
as
should
going
also
on the
say
road,
this is a renovated picture, so take it with a grain of salt. It is remodeled, but it still looks the same lopsidedness that it is.
So it's
But a
3/4
little
of the
nicer.
stadium.
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
And as Crewhead 76 says, the locker rooms are worse. Yeah, San Jose State, never heard a whole lot of really good things about it. When I was a student journalist, I covered a team that our only win was on the road against San Jose State. We might have 2 that year, but our only real D1 win was at San Jose State, and we drew straws to which student would have to go cover it because none of us wanted to travel to that shitty stadium. So anyways, Brian, Martin has picked Idaho. Your final thoughts and your score prediction.
I won. Jesus Christ. Sorry, Kyle Willis in the comment section. Sold out crowd of 38 people. Jesus Christ.
Shout out my friend Kyle, lead singer of Fate Defined, a great metal band here in Spokane. Thank you for joining us, Kyle.
Okay, Kyle, you're in the running for today's MVP. I don't know who the winner is going to be. Kevin Marshall was key earlier. Dallas was the ringer halfway through. Anyway, I go back and forth on this game a ton. I go back and forth because I feel like we've seen pieces of if Idaho can get it together a little bit. And I'm sure I sound harsher than I actually mean to. I think Idaho's very good. I think they're on the cusp of being a team that could go about 7-1 in the Big Sky. Mm-hmm. I feel like the only thing that could get in the way of that is is Idaho themselves. On the other hand, San Jose State does, you would say, just defensively, until we see otherwise, this is a matchup that the first matchup you would say, hey, this definitively favors the other team, as in it's the other team's offensive strength on Idaho's defensive weakness, which gives me pause. On the other hand, I don't know. I really don't think the talent, because we talk about the Mountain West, it's not what it was 5 years ago. Like these games, I expect worst case scenario, we're going to have another very close game. That the Mountain West so far, they've just been able to eke out game after game after game against the Big Sky. I really don't want to pick San Jose State. I'm going to pick them to win 24-21. Every part of me does not want to pick San Jose State because there are absolute demerits we've covered that the only time they looked kind of okay this year was losing to a really shitty Central Michigan team, a very bad Central Michigan team. And the other end is I feel that there's reason to say if you look at the preponderance of evidence, Idaho has been correcting issues. The one thing that gives me pause more than most of the followers of Idaho is just the not finishing drives against Utah Tech and the risk of getting into too many 3rd and longs in this game. So if I were going hard, I would 100% go Idaho because I don't feel good about picking San Jose State. But like I said, San Jose State 24-21.
I'm not going to use the words, but I hope you guys understand what that means. I'm taking San Jose State 28-20 because I do not believe Idaho's secondary is going to be able to hang on against this school. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but this feels like a quote unquote letdown. This is punching up. This is traveling. This is the first true road game of the year. Again, I know Wazoo's on the road, but come on, our fans were louder than Wazoo throughout the entire second half because that entire stadium knew, oh shit, we're Cougar it, we're Cougar it, we're Cougar it, we're Cougar it, and then somehow they didn't at the end, which is a miracle in itself. But you line up the things, Idaho having special teams issues. You're going to need special teams to be perfect when you're going up against an FBS school. I don't care who they are, unless it's Nevada, who's honestly so bad they should be in the Big Sky with us still. But I just don't see it here, guys, especially when Eli Cummings is banged up. We know Nate Thomas is on a career snap count because, yes, he might not be like actively injured right now, but the guy is in year 7, year 8 of college football, just and missed so much time with injuries over the years that, man, Art Williams is phenomenal. I love watching Art run. I don't remember. I think it might have been Crewhead 76. I apologize. I don't remember who it was that said he's got the best vision of any of the running backs on the team. Fully agree with that. But man, there's not enough healthy weapons in the running game for me to push Idaho here, especially when the secondary has got to level up this week very quickly, because this run and shoot offense is going to throw the ball 50 plus times. In the comment section to rip through these very quick. Travis Thompson 21-14, Crewhead 76, Vandals win, Rob Maurer 30-24, Turner Webb, Idaho pulls it off. Nick Weber, Idaho 24-14. Ross Warren 30-26. Kick return for a touchdown is the difference. That is a huge swing around on special teams. Love that one, Ross. Idaho CFB, Idaho 17-14. Going through here, trying to get through the rest of the picks here. That is all of our picks, guys. So that takes us to the end of this show. Thank you again for watching. If you are listening to us live, when we get off the line, jump over to ESPN Plus. Vandal Soccer currently taking on Bullshit University. Let's hope they can get a goal and send those Broncos back to Boise. With that said, guys, we'll be live right after this game. You can watch it on the Mountain West app. That's probably going to be the easiest way for most of you guys to find it.
I think it's like themountainwest.com or something like that, or the Mountain West. And I don't know. It's all, you can find it easier on your computer.
Yeah, you go Google Mountain West Conference, and you're going to find their links to being able to stream the game come Saturday. With that said, we will be talking instant reaction shortly after that game. And as always, guys, go Vandals.
Go Vandals.
Oh, Vandals.